Nuance with Nikki, the nitty gritty, even if it's not pretty. Let's hear in a couple of Afrikaner perspectives or other white South African perspectives on our white genocide myth. By the way, guys, thank you so much. I think the world, I'm actually so glad that Trump did this. I'm so glad because this myth has been going on since, I think, 2011. You know, I was obsessed with it in 2018. It was insane, right? You had people tweeting about how they're going to come to South Africa. You will not steal my fit cook, Garfield. How they're going to... Garfield! That's my Mgwenya, please. Saying how they're going to come to South Africa and perform crusades and threaten to shoot people. So I was really worried, right? Because, I don't know. It was just hectic. But anyway... There's so many different takes on this situation, and I do think that since this is an issue that involves white South Africans and is affecting their reputation, no matter how they, the majority of white South Africans in this country, feel, I think it's important that we listen to them too. And so I have managed to locate some videos. So first up, let's look at the campaign called Not USA, but USA. Let's have a look. It was on SABC.
A handful of Afrikaners recently packed their bags and left the country, eyeing a new life in the United States, claiming persecution and dispossession of land, and even a genocide of Afrikaners in this country. But South Africans' rejection of those discredited narratives has been overwhelming. This weekend in Pretoria, a fresh voice emerging from within the Afrikaner community. The civic movement, Better Einders, has launched a new campaign called Not USA, but USA. Their message, Afrikaners are not victims fleeing the country. Instead, they are choosing to stay, to stand firm, and to build a future right here at home. And what better way to celebrate that spirit than the true South African traditions of a good old braai and a soccer match. So, if you are in Pretoria yesterday, well, you missed out. You could have joined the Better Einders, the local Afrikaner community, and their so-called, quote-unquote, in inverted commas here, oppressors, and have taken to the soccer field and huddle around the braai fire later on yesterday. So let's hear.
Okay, if you guys don't know what a braai is a South African barbecue. All South Africans are good at it, but nobody is as good at a braai as a boer. The boere are amazing at braaiing, and you have not lived until you've had a boere braai. Boere are always on time for everything. They're always an hour early, except for the braai, because they are late. They'll make the food the last, and that's because they take the most time. Okay, so yeah, watch out for that. And then I hope there's something that if you've watched the movie Invictus, maybe you'll get it. Or if you're a South African of a certain age, you'll definitely get it. But do you understand the significance of playing a soccer match? What is the message this campaign is sending out to the greater South Africa? Because it runs very deep for us. It runs incredibly deep. Do you guys know what it is?
Hear more about this initiative from organizer Johan Erasmus, who joins me now. Good afternoon to you, Johan. Thank you for your time. We'll show our viewers the visuals coming through from the day you had. It looks like it was a great deal of fun. In the introduction, I was saying that you are saying the theme of your campaign is not USA, as in the letters USA, but USA, as in you, South Africa. Tell me about the thinking behind this campaign.
Well, yeah, good afternoon. So I think the thinking, and sorry for my voice, this was...
you lost it yesterday.
One of the casualties of yesterday's soccer and braai. I think Trump ran a campaign that was very much focused on America first and patriotism, make America great again. And we share, plenty of Afrikaners share that same sentiment. We share that same commitment to our country. When I grew up, we used to sing the stem. And we used to say, ons sal lewe, ons sal sterwe, ons vir jou Suid-Afrika. We will live, we will die, we will for us, for you, South Africa.
So the stem was the white people's national anthem, while the black people's national anthem that we used to sing in colored schools was Nkosi Sikelel' Afrika, which was a prayer. It was actually banned, and it means God bless Africa. Okay, but the stem, being a beautiful song, also had a lot of Do you know what I mean? But as South Africans, very often all we've had is something ugly to make something beautiful of. So by way of example, there's an apartheid prison not so far from my house. We tore down the bricks of that prison and we built them up again to make our constitutional court the highest court in the land. Okay? And I do want to show you the preamble of the Constitution here in a minute. Maybe I should actually get that lined up. Yeah, I think I had it in a different video. So I should do that, right? That's one example. There's another song that I've made in a recent video. I've played it. It's got all the songs. Oh man, I think it's called The Only Video. Yes, right. It's got all different kinds of Afrikaner music, right? Which long before any of this became international news on this scale, these songs would completely gosh. Long before any of this became an issue, right? These songs would completely contradict the narrative. It's popular Afrikaans music of everyday Afrikaners, right? And so I'd love to play you that. One of those songs was actually an old propaganda song and has now been made into a beautiful pop song, but you guys wouldn't know the history of that, okay? But just so that you understand, no matter what people say our laws say, our constitution, as written in, I believe, 1996, sorry, we got democracy in 1994, so around that time, 95, 96, says, "We the people of South Africa recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity." Okay? We therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this constitution as the supreme law of the republic, so as to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Lay the foundations for democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by law. Improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. Build a united and democratic South Africa, able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. Guys, you don't understand how powerful it was when we wrote those words. We were the pariah state. Nobody even wanted to play sports with us. And so, saying for the most racist country in the world at that time to write the words united in our diversity, you guys don't understand. This is not just any other constitution. Don't believe me? Ask Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who reads constitutions. She would just read them for fun, wouldn't she? And may she rest in peace. She read this and said it was the best constitution she'd ever read. Fact check me on that. Okay? And so I've also made a video. It was called it The Only Video You Need to Understand Afrikaner Alleged Refugees. I'm just having a bit of fun. But there's a song that I play over here. It actually was based on the tune of an old propaganda song, you know? And now it's just all about how this guy is just joyful. If you're not clear, it's a Buddha guy. Popular Afrikaans music completely breaks down this myth. Okay? How about this one? And of course I end the video with the song that I believe that a lot of these refugees, I mean, you know, may they rest in peace, may they enjoy America, that's great, but I believe a lot of them may be singing soon. I've immigrated from this country, so I know. Anyway, so all of that is Afrikaner music, and I hope we start off on a positive note. Let's carry on with the not USA but USA.
And now that we've gone democratic in 1994, that sentiment didn't disappear. It was only enhanced. That doesn't mean that we don't have issues in South Africa, but that same patriotism still runs through many of our respective bloodstreams. So we are saying the same message back to Trump to say, not America first, South Africa first. We are passionate about this country. And
do you see what they did? Not only did they go and have a braai, one of the biggest forms of love that a South African can give to another person, but they made sure that they played soccer. They wanted, as people from our generation, so anybody who was old enough in 1995 to watch the first time the Springboks played the All Blacks at that World Cup, which united our nation. Okay? The 1995 World Cup. At that time, rugby was the sport of white supremacy, and soccer was the sport of black people, right? Or anybody who I guess was anti-racist, right? And so as South Africans, no matter what sport it was, we'd always support opposing teams against our own country because it was one of the safest ways you could protest, right? So we especially supported Brazil in soccer, and we especially supported New Zealand in rugby. The New Zealand rugby team became our team, and you still have thousands of South Africans that will support New Zealand against our own team. But one day Nelson Mandela, and Steven Spielberg made a movie about it, Nelson Mandela goes to the white supremacist team and he says, will you guys play for the whole country? And they said yes. And he goes to the whole country and he says, will you guys support this team? And they said yes. Okay, I wonder if I can maybe find, because I can't find my own cut of that, so maybe I can find you some random cuts of the movie Invictus. Let's see. Yeah, let's see what part this is.
I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Today, President Mandela takes office in Pretoria, balancing black aspirations with white fears.
Remember this day, boys. This is a day our country went to the dogs.
Brothers, sisters, this is the time to build our nation. All of the whites are cheering for South Africa. All of the blacks are cheering for England. How long before the World Cup?
Don't get your hopes up. We're a damn disgrace.
I've been invited to tea.
With who?
The president.
Tell me, Francois, how do we inspire ourselves to greatness when nothing less will do? How do we inspire everyone around us?
What did he want?
I think he wants us to win the World Cup.
This rugby is a political calculation.
It is a human calculation.
According to the experts, we'll reach the quarterfinals and no further.
According to the experts, you and I should still be in jail.
Times change. We need to change as well. We become more than just a rugby team.
Did you even mention this?
How could I?
Do you hear? Listen to your country. This is it. This is our destiny.
I was thinking about how you spent 30 years in a tiny cell and come out ready to forgive the people who put you there.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
South African or not, I may envy you because you were born in freedom if you weren't born in apartheid. I was not born in freedom. But all you ever get to do is watch that movie. I know what it feels like to be a child who doesn't understand what it means to be proudly South African. I couldn't pronounce apartheid, but I could feel that something was drastically wrong. I could feel it. And I could feel that when Mandela became president, beyond what I could understand or express, I could feel something lift. It was like the sun literally rising out of us. But when we won that match, that was the first time I felt that I was allowed to be proud, that I could be proud and South African. So when these guys at not USA, but USA, went to play soccer in the townships with those poor kids who can barely afford food, look at the images carefully and tell me if you think they can afford guns. Never mind. Tell me who you think is more vulnerable to crime, those kids or those of us here in the suburbs living behind electric fences. Okay? This is a message that runs deeper than words. It runs deeper. This is a carnal message. And it is one of the biggest in South African non-verbal language. It is the biggest love letters they knew how to give in taking a stance. It's a very powerful message to the rest of us. And I'm not even sure that if you were born in freedom that you can even grasp that.
And it's people. We're not just passionate when the Springboks win. We are passionate.
Yeah. So tell me about, in fact, let me ask you what I think is an obvious question, and I think you've answered it in part. 49, 59, depending on the tally, South Africans who happen to be Afrikaners, well, by design, by the Trump administration, have left the country. I take it that you're not going to be packing up your bags and leaving anytime soon?
No, I mean, Malema cannot sing that song enough times to convince me to go to America. I travel a lot, and I can assure you that whenever I land at OR Tambo, and the East Rand is not necessarily the prettiest part of our country, whenever I land there, I just have this sense of homecoming. And there are Afrikaners who says that they want to go to a different land, to America. There are other Afrikaners who are asking for a homeland, but there are also lots of Afrikaners who are at home in their land, and I am one of them.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about the day yesterday, and we will show our viewers one more time. Where was this in and around Pretoria? I see it looked like a great deal of fun in the video as we play it right now. Where was this and who won? Does it matter who won, or was it a case of South Africa won?
What you are seeing there is not just white kids and black kids. You are seeing them overcome language barriers because it is likely that those kids speak Setswana and the other kids speak Afrikaans. And they have to both communicate in English as their third language, as a third common language, right? So the effort to connect bridges in South Africa is harder than what you have in England, America, Australia, New Zealand, because you don't have the added thing of overcoming a language barrier. It is a whole different kettle of fish. And yet, those children are able to do it from what was once the most racist country. Not once, 5 minutes ago.
No, it wasn't South Africa won, but it was the blacks, I can assure you. I don't want to trivialize the farm murders because it's a genuine issue. Yes. But as South Africans, we deal with these things with a sense of humor. So I told a lot of people yesterday that I disagree with the narrative of a white genocide, but yesterday on the soccer pitch there was a white genocide. We were humiliated. It was ethnic cleansing. But it's in Camille Drift.
But then, Johan, I imagine that if the game was rugby, it would have had a different outcome, right?
Well, I mean, it turned into rugby a few times because I've got two left feet. I get so annoyed and frustrated that 11-year-old boys are ishiboboing me there. That, I just pick up the ball and bump them out of the way. So it turned out into rugby just out of pure frustration.
Yeah. Ishibobo is a special South African kind of run that they do on the soccer pitch. But I'm not going to tell you South Africa's secret at why we're so good at sports. Yeah, let me be quiet before I give our secrets away.
So, Johan, just in terms of reflecting on the issues and what you're trying to drive with this campaign, is it your sense that as South Africans, and you made the allusion to when the Springboks win, And no one can doubt the spirit that prevails when the Springboks are playing, when there's that sense of unity. But beyond those moments in between, do we interact enough as South Africans, and perhaps do we need to have that conversation to say, we need to know each other enough. I need to visit you and come and sit with you and do what you do and know more about you and your traditions and the things that you hold dear, your fears, hopes and aspirations, and vice versa.
Exactly. So I think we put too much pressure on the poor Springboks to do nation building. It's a responsibility that you and I have. And if the only black people that I engage with are via TikTok, people who say hurtful things or problematic things, then of course I'm going to be scared of black people. Of course I'm going to seek asylum. But if you engage with the real black people, and if you engage with the real white people, because it's very easy to just engage with caricatures of white people as well, then it's easy for politicians and fearmongers to talk about the whites or the blacks or the swart gevaar or whiteness or whatever. But when it becomes Johan and when it becomes Rudolf and Tabang and Sipho, it takes the sting out of what many people on the far left and far right are trying to do.
Yeah. I agree with that, guys, and I think all of you around the world could do that when it comes to South Africans. It is so easy for you guys to caricature us as a nation, and I fully recommend interacting with us in a more nuanced way, especially if you come from a country where you are the protagonist a lot. If you've watched a lot of movies where a lot of people from your country are the protagonist, it is for you, when you are dealing with people in real life, to work all the harder to be in the audience, okay? Because we've learned a lot about your culture if all the main characters in all the movies we watch come from your country, okay? You're sitting in the spotlight, but I've been an actress. You know what it's like? Go shine your torch right now in your eyes. Do you know what I mean? When you're in the spotlight, you're the one who's blind and you can't see the audience. So when interacting with others, I would say, yeah, that's one of the biggest ways to fight prejudice, is to actually be cognizant of sitting in the audience. Okay, there is a very interesting take from this gentleman. I got this footage from Jones World TV. So how can white people be victims of racism? Let's have a look.
Start being African.
I'm so sick of people saying that white people cannot be victims of racism. So I've made this video to explain exactly why white people can be victims of racism. Now, if you listen very carefully, you can probably hear that I'm actually from South Africa. So we have a long history in South Africa of racism. But people sometimes think that white people in South Africa was not victims of racism. But let me explain exactly how we were, in fact, victims of racism. You see, when you think that your value as a human being comes from your skin color, you stop trying to be a good person in other ways. So during apartheid, we were told as white people that we were better than black people.
They weren't just told that. You know how most kids go to summer camp? White kids had to go to racism camp, effectively. They had to go and learn the ways of racism. It was taught. And one of my regrets is that the new South Africa hasn't got camps that teaches the opposite. Although I must say, the education in terms of the literature and the poetry is superb. So, anyway.
And some people, they start to think that that means that you are automatically better. It doesn't matter what you do. So we had white people in South Africa who were raping people.
There were people that would just come with dogs in the middle of the night and come and raid townships. And those things very much happened. They could just come in, take the blanket off of you. A reality. My mom narrowly escaped that.
Policemen who were taking people off the street and torturing them and doing the worst things you can imagine. And they walk around thinking, oh, I'm white, I must be okay, I must be good because my skin makes me good. You see, if you are a racist, you are a victim of racism because you stop growing as a person. You stop seeing other people as fully human. And you look at a black man and you think, I'm better than him because of my skin. But what actually happens is the black man that you abuse and oppress, he grows and he learns and he becomes a better person because he has you as an example of what a terrible person is.
When I was young, I watched a documentary about one of the guards that had been guarding Nelson Mandela and his peers. People such as Ahmed Kathadra, people such as Governor Mbeki, and so forth, right? Famous South Africans that were in prison with Nelson Mandela. And they were all lawyers and they all had degrees. And this guy spoke about how he had a sense of inferiority towards them. These are the kind of guys that would pee on Nelson Mandela's head. And he spoke about how he felt inferior because he hadn't even finished high school. So he had a very deep sense of inferiority, and it's actually self-hatred, which is the root of racism. Because a person who loves themselves doesn't need to hate anybody else. They're just happy with themselves, right? Usually it's self-loathing that's being projected onto others, but that's a whole nother conversation.
And then we get someone like Nelson Mandela, and he comes out of prison after 27 years, and he's better than any white man in the country because he's learning the whole time. And the white racist sits there and thinks, I don't have to learn because I'm white. I'm automatically good. And you become the biggest victim of racism. You become a fucking idiot. So all my white brothers and sisters, man, we've got to get rid of this racism. We are not growing as people. We are not becoming the people we should be because we think that our value comes from our skin color and not from the way that we treat other people.
Yeah, the saying goes, that which is green grows, that which is ripe rots. And there's so much I want to say here. One thing I do want to say, though, is that white South Africans that I live with are a supreme example of a group of people that are so honest in the face of self-reflection and that have managed to, along with the rest of us, build a nation that is based on the dignity of all people. And that is because, like most South Africans, we don't shy away from our racial past. We just don't. So white South Africans are not excluded from that. And that is why I'm trying to show you examples of South Africans speaking incredibly eloquently about what's going on here. Okay, so I'm going to show you this chap in a second, and then we'll go back to this young man. Okay? Let's just see if he can wrap up for a second.
Do not be a victim of racism. Do not be a racist.
Hi guys,
Cool.
Here you see a white African owning up to his shit, accepting the fact that he's truly an African, and advising his fellow white Africans to accept the fact that they are fully Africans and stop being settlers in another man's country. Guys, he advises white Africans to stop the act of migrating to other man's country, being settlers, rather than belonging to the country or the community that they belong. Guys, you actually think most white Africans believe the fact that they can fully...
I don't think it, I know it. I live with them every day and they live it. What these people are saying, they live too. And what happens is, for example, people talk about a white genocide. You know what doesn't happen in a country where a specific a group of people is facing a genocide? That country doesn't make people from that race Miss South Africa. South Africans, we have gotten a whole lot of shit for making a Boere white Afrikaner Miss South Africa. And it was black people that were insulted in this country for that. How could they do that? Blah, 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 blah. Why would they do that? In spite of the fact that we voted the first deaf Miss Universe contestant in. Okay, and that we stood up against somebody whose family had committed identity theft and pretended to be South African when they weren't. Okay, and so normally this idea, this caricature of the white South African turns into a caricature of the black South African, and it is just not the truth of who we are as people. We are three-dimensional people. The majority of us get along. The majority of us love each other. The majority of us will treat you fairly based on the content of your character, not the color of your skin. The color of your skin is something that we're honest about. We absolutely see it. We honor it. We honor your accent. We honor your language. We honor your diversity. But our country's motto is which means unity in diversity. We celebrate the fact that you're different. And it is something you absolutely can do. If the most racist country in the world could learn to do it and build unity, then absolutely you can do that. And you don't have to believe the worst about everybody and believe that it's not possible. Because if you think you can't and you think you can, then you're right. Okay? As the old saying goes. And so, yes, and this is, I just realized that I think this is a dream that goes way back, okay? I think I read you the Constitution, but I also want to show you this man over here, a man by the name of Steve Biko. This was his dream. He was the father of black consciousness. Okay, let's hear what he had to say, and then we'll go back to White Afrikaners.
We see a completely non-racial society. We don't believe, for instance, in the so-called guarantees for minority rights, because guaranteeing minority rights implies recognition of portions of the community on a race basis. We believe that in our country there shall be no minority, there shall be no majority, there shall just be people. And those people will have the same status before the law, and they will have the same political rights before the law.
And this young man died younger than me. He died for this. And we live every day to make people like Steve Biko proud. Okay? And so, yeah. If you didn't know who he was, that's who he is. I also, now while we're talking about him, I wonder if I left in here Nelson Mandela's speech. I don't think I did. Okay, that was in a different video. That's cool, that's cool. We were on white South Africans. Okay, I do want to have you guys hear this other incredibly eloquent man, and then we'll go on to more people, okay?
Let's see these other videos shortly, and I'll be back by the end of the video.
Hey, lovely people, and particularly a quick word to my American friends who might be tempted to believe what Donald Trump is saying about South Africa, my home country, where I happen to be right now. Him and Elon Musk are racist twats who have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Because what they're doing is taking the word of a fringe racist group called AfriForum and other disaffected whites, disgruntled by the end of apartheid, feeling hard done by, and much like the Israelis, victimizing themselves when they are not victims at all, bitching about how land redistribution is racist against whites. These are such ignorant provocateurs, and it's going to backfire on them. South Africans' majority, the black majority, and it's a multiracial, multi-tribal society now, only own a tiny proportion of the land versus the size of their population. And while white South Africans make up 7% of the population, more or less, they own about 70% of the decent land. And so the redistribution of land is to address past inequities, and the vast majority of South Africans agree and understand why that's happening, and that
I hope if you get anything from my channel, whether I've offended you or anything, that you've seen how loudly as a colored South African, I refuse to let black South Africans stand alone. It would be the same for white South Africans. You've seen me stand up for them on this channel, no matter how unpopular I feared that would be. It would be the same for Indian South Africans. It's the same for colored South Africans, right? You come for one of us, you come for all of us. There is no way we would be silent on that. I was pissed off just because people were saying mean things to a woman who couldn't even hear it. Okay? I stood up for damn Drickus du Plessis, who is now, you know what? Let me not go there. But anyway, the point is, do you really think, given South Africans and our response when you come for any one of our race groups, you saw black people in this country stand up for colored people when the African Americans came up for us when it came to Tyler? You saw white and black together stand up for Bongi Mbonambi when Tom Curry, the British rugby player, accused them unfairly of racism. Okay, we made t-shirts about it. By the way, I'm making t-shirts about this. The Groot Futsak, you guys are welcome to go. That's not what we're saying. We don't want you. If I didn't actually love Americans as much as I criticize them, if I didn't actually love them, I would say thank you for taking the trash out. But I am worried about their resources being given to some of our worst, because I have seen veterans. I've sat next to veterans on the subway while they were begging for money. I have felt American winter, and I know, or I got a taste of what the American homeless go through. I have seen a level of poverty in Alabama in a diner. It was something about the way this one woman specifically walked. And it occurred to me at the age of 24 in 2010 that I had never seen that walk on anybody but a black person. You know, I didn't know that it could have a white face at that point. The level of poverty that I saw there, right? So I have seen devastating poverty there. It's why I wasn't upset when Trump took away the US aid, because I want to know why my taxes aren't paying for public healthcare here in this country, and why should it come out of Americans' pockets when they're struggling for healthcare? So yeah, but anyway, let's carry on and listen to what this guy has to say.
that it's a good thing. It's also under a very strict mechanism. Now, not everyone agrees, of course, with the mechanism, but the principle is what racists like Musk and Trump are railing against here on behalf of a bunch of assholes who equate equality with oppression because
the principle of unity is something we are so honest about in South Africa, and like something we are so passionate about. You know, we've been criticized for not giving up the labels black, white, colored, and Indian. But if we pretend that we're all equal and we all were given equal rights and equal this and equal that, and we don't acknowledge that it was a matter of degrees and to what degree each community needs help, because each community needs help in very different ways. We all need help here. Right? But if we pretend that this is just some merit-based society when all the merits are measured in the English and Afrikaans language and measured from an English and Afrikaans standpoint, which gives someone like me, a native English speaker, then an advantage over a Xhosa speaker, an Afrikaans speaker, but the Afrikaans speaker has, you know, relative privilege over a Zulu speaker who has relative privilege over a Venda speaker, etc., etc. If we lie about that, we will continue. You don't fight racism by sticking your head in the sand. You can be honest about different races, you can celebrate different races, and you can address the inequality. But that takes honesty. Okay? Getting off my soapbox, I was supposed to listen to your soapbox. Sorry, sir, you're amazing.
Principle is what racists like Musk and Trump are railing against here on behalf of a bunch of assholes who equate equality with oppression, because for so many years, decades and decades of the apartheid era, they were the oppressor. And as we know, whenever the oppressor looks at something like equality, it suddenly becomes oppression of him. So fuck Elon Musk, fuck these idiots from AfriForum. You probably know nothing about them, but this is a bunch of, you know, the equivalent of your kind of Proud Boys hanging on to some past that never actually existed. And a past in which the vast majority of people in this country were oppressed, suppressed, and treated much like, fortunately not quite as badly as the Israelis treat the Palestinians. So this whole railing against South Africa, I'm going to add one more point. South Africans, on the whole, all of us, white, black, Indian, coloured, which is not a term, is a specific term for those of you who might get offended by that, a specific racial group. We are very, very resilient people. As a country, we have gone through a great deal, both in terms of the early part and then the transition from the apartheid era to genuine multicultural democracy. And whatever Trump throws at us, we can handle. We can handle it because we've been through far, far worse in our history. And my hope is that South Africans all...
He's going to try and express here that we have been through levels of racism outside of your frame of reference and probably outside of your conceptual scheme. Okay, and I have seen us tell the actual story. Most of you guys, when you watch these videos, get the crib notes, you get the footnotes, and often your interpretation is rather rudimentary. Okay? But when you're playing race and the race game with South Africans, you're swimming with the big boys now. This is a whole bunch of stuff happening in your blind spot. Yes, you too, America. Put away that big American protagonist energy. That is your Achilles heel. Okay? Underestimating your enemy and overestimating yourselves. Okay, is what he's going to try and get to. I don't agree with every single point that he says here, but in principle, I do. Listen.
All turn around with one voice and tell Trump to fuck off with his sanctions and his fucking withdrawal of aid and his tariffs and all of this stuff, because we can live through it. What I'm not sure about is whether Americans can, because for the most part, all the stuff that Vivek Ramaswamy said recently about Americans being soft, not prepared to put in the hard graft, and all this stuff, I tell you, for the experience of most foreigners is true. Now, it's not true of every American I know. Some of them are the most hardworking, wonderful...
I would say all Americans are the most hardworking, wonderful people I know. Literally not a hardworking people, they're the hardworking people. The work ethic isn't the issue here. The issue is the protagonist delusion, the delusions of moral superiority. When you guys talk theoretically about how you would have dealt with whatever situation, you guys overestimate yourselves and underestimate the enemy. Okay? Do not let America go down because you are not prepared. You're able to handle this. That's where I disagree with this guy. You're able to handle this, but I don't think you are prepared. You have the ability to handle this, but many of you are not prepared at the moment. For if it is white right-wing South Africans speaking into the ear of the POTUS right now, that is a degree, a level, a dexterity of racism, which I would argue not even you have seen. Allow this to become a lesson. Whole world, allow this to become a lesson and an example of how to handle race and racism. Okay, watch carefully and listen carefully, world. Okay, do not allow this to become that domino that I don't think it can push over America. I think America is very strong and resilient too, but I do think you're more vulnerable than you realize, and I'm concerned. Let me say concerned.
People in the world, but as a general principle, South Africans are far more resilient and able to withstand this kind of bullshit authoritarian pressure than any American population. So, to my fellow South Africans, let's stick this out. Let's stick up the middle finger to Trump and particularly to Elon Musk, because we know from his background that he left South Africa in the apartheid era and retains the racist bullshit that's motivating these people like Creel. And now that I'm in South Africa, I'm seeing their awesome, ridiculous tweets. Fuck those guys as well. They're the past. Most of us are the future, and it's a beautiful future.
Are white farmers facing genocide in South Africa?
That's an absolute beautiful present. Okay, so those are my two favorite videos. Let's just watch a couple of others, and I'll leave you with this, okay? Let's have a look here.
Africans. And let me make this clear for the benefit of those of you who are not South Africans. I'm a white South African, but I'm not an Afrikaner. I'm not a Boer, as people say. But even the Afrikaner people, the vast majority of Afrikaners don't want to leave this country. All Afrikaners and white people have a very good life in South Africa. We are doing fine. Thank you very much. We do not need to leave, and we do not need refugee status from Trump. So, why has Trump decided to grant refugee status to a group of Afrikaners? Well, he likes keeping in the media, but I think that it really has more to do with his friend Elon Musk, who, remember, is a former South African. He has not been granted a license to operate his Starlink internet here in South Africa, and he has probably done this whole thing to provoke the bear, to create some kind of acrimonious situation and force the South African government to pay more attention to him. But let me just reiterate this. The group of South Africans who claim to be refugees from a white genocide, it's quite frankly an embarrassment.
We built apartheid, and now we're refugees. We took the land. We took
okay, guys.
people's
So,
futures.
you've probably seen this lady Belinda around. Do go and hear what she has to say. She's all over TikTok. Many people. She's very passionate about her message. This guy as well, getting a lot of mud in his face, but he also has a lot to say, and you might find him interesting. I'd like to actually leave on a positive note. So let's see how much luck I'll have with that. Let's see what I can show you. A couple of white South Africans speaking black South African languages, and then maybe a song. Okay, yeah, here we go.
Lo mama lo osikhulise ngesixhosa eyosebenza kakhulu lo mama ukusikhulisa isixhosa ngakumbi kwabantu abafana nathi ngebala. Kodwa ke ndizama ukuthetha ngaloo ndinomona ke mna ke uthi ngumakhulu ngoku.
Ndingumakhulu Bruce.
Umakhulu kabani?
Umakhulu kaVuyani.
kaVuyani. Yayiva le nto.
Vuyani Rich.
Ayise kodwa ndinomona kaloku ngathi lo mzukulu wam uzothatha indawo yam.
Ngumzukulu wami wesibini.
Owesibini ncedile. Kodwa sime apho kule ndudumela lapha eRhawutini. Makhulu ndoyika xa ududuma ke mna ngathi uba ndifuna njengongena phantsi kwedesika.
Hayi kufuneka ungoyiki Bruce. Nyamezela bhuti, nyamezela.
Kodwa ke sidiniwe ngoku.
Sidiniwe simake imini yonke.
Silungisa amaphepha abantwana. Lo kubalulekile ukuba sifundele imviwo zethu
nanzo
kubalulekile
ngakumbi xa unikwe igrama kufanele uyifunde leyo gram kufuneka nisifunde eza zinto ezifana nezikhweko nezinto zokuphindophindo.
Now, first of all, I want to say that it's not like, oh, white South Africans are speaking African languages, woohoo. I want to say that black South Africans have been speaking white South African languages for decades and centuries, learning English and Afrikaans, right? When they come from language families of different languages. Black South Africans are extraordinary. They'll easily speak 4, 5, 6 languages. My great-grandfather spoke 13 languages. I read about Alf Kamala, who I'd love to do my Black Excellence Tuesday on very soon, who spoke 13. So our true polyglots are our black South Africans. I just want to put that out there. They are the ones who are absolutely extraordinary. I've seen black South Africans that can speak, Mandarin Chinese. So, yeah. But I do want to show the white folks speaking the black languages too here. My point is not just, okay, let's clap for white people when we don't clap for black people, please. I do acknowledge. Okay. But it's that in what used to be the most racist country in the world, people are willing to try and learn other languages, not like learning English and Spanish or English and French, which are from the same language family, Latin and Germanic, right? I'm talking about learning languages from an entire different branch. People pretend that's the same thing. It's not. It's not. Okay? Ek praat Engels, je parle un petit peu le français, ek praat 'n bietjie Afrikaans. That is not the same. Uma ngikhuluma isiZulu. Okay? So when I tell you, those are two different things. It's a whole different swimming pool there. Okay, it's not cognitively the same effort. It takes way more effort to speak a different language from a different family. But people in South Africa are willing to do that rather than feed racism. And that it's South Africa that is that example. Should actually make the word blush a bit. But after blushing, can you wipe the, chunk and krekla, wipe the tears off your face and actually put in a little bit more effort just to communicate better. You don't have to learn a language. You can just listen better. That's enough of a step. Believe the best about the next person. See them. See your fellow human being for who they are. That's enough of a step. Give them grace. That's enough of a step. That's where language learning comes from. It comes from being in the audience, from seeing others. And that is a bridge.
Nog meer. Ik ga op Barkley. Sinne van DC 31st January. Vanobuya eplasini wethu nobanye ramu wethu. Sinika mawele samne nama tikanzi sinzima. Amaramu 100 condition. Ama ozi 300. Dani bulisa tabona ngefandisi. Ngos.
Ana bobo babet. Nasi gidisija vuskoni. Uvaturisa utribela. Bodro ya saisi 14. Landor gergeni. Una nur vatavia. Tribela lavia. Tribela munyana yolazvona mara. Ke blind Rowena what years.
Just want to come and address this comment because I've received comment amaningi afana nale on my previous video. So guys, asikoisha sonke abafana abakhethi ukuthi wena umnyama wena umhlophe wena ngumlungu wena ucolored wena ubhakile wena ushwapha wena uslender wena usidudla wena. Guys, abafana abanandaba nathi and abasithanda abafana basinyisa sonke. So you don't have to point out my race or the color of my skin ukuthi siyagowa sonke siyagowa.
Okay, strong. Last week bengibuye town nabobheke ekhaya sonothenga isonga nezawe ne-drink. Yeah, fike nje uyama nepolo. Bisecanga mathi eksem bros masam lathi yabo undazilaphi. Wathi ya ndazibona ifitshe zakho. Man ndifuna ukudrop ekhaya ndisho masam. Kayingena kwemoto lo mntana bethi indlela errong yabo. That takes okay, that is yabi. Wathi saqala pha kuma athi sure that all late nathi kusenza buya late ndisatopa ku.
Okay guys, I think that's enough for now. I just, for whatever reason, I'm in the mood for a song to end this off with. Yeah, one day the world will see that being African is more than a skin color. They will see that it is about who raised you, who made you who you are, and what it's about is Ubuntu. The philosophy of Ubuntu is the philosophy of community. You see, we have a word that umuntu, which means a person, abantu, which means people. So when you use the word Ubuntu, you're merging the word for person and people together. And we say, and forgive my accent here, ngoba umuntu ngemuntu ngabantu, which means because a person is a person because of other people. Okay, guys, yeah. I was supposed to show you poetry first, wasn't I? Okay, I'll show you poetry and then some music. Okay, people spoke about Nelson Mandela earlier. I think people was me. Okay, and I would love it if you saw Boikanyo. I've played it before. Yes, the winner of South Africa's Got Talent like years ago. Her poem towards Mr. Mandela, and then maybe a song. Okay, should I play the song while the advert plays? I am not sure. Yeah, let's go for it.
Yo, 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 wants to sleep for yo. Yo, 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 wants to sleep for yo. Wants to sleep for yo. South Africa.
Okay, that may be an Afrikaans song, but that is not an Afrikaner song. That is a Kleerling song. That means a colored song. Okay, let's see if Botlale's video is ready. There we go. The man who made this all possible.
They made him break rocks, thinking they were breaking his spirit. My first black president. I can hear the echoes of his voice and that cold courtroom when he said, freedom is an ideal I want to live for. But if needs be, freedom is an ideal I'm prepared to die for.
Yeah, this is a poem about the man who made it all possible. But it should be said that he didn't make it possible alone. There were many people just as great as Nelson Mandela that, unfortunately for you guys overseas, you've never heard their names. But they're an amazing group of people, just as great and even greater than Nelson Mandela. But the greatest people every single day is everyday South Africans, okay? So let's keep listening to her poem.
My first black president. I can hear the echoes of his voice and that cold courtroom when he said, freedom is an ideal I want to live for. But if needs be, freedom is an ideal I'm prepared to die for. There was silence in court. He was sentenced to isolation in a small cell. Hard labor was isonka sakhe semihla ngemihla. They made him break rocks, thinking they were breaking his spirit. Little did they know they were preparing him to break barriers of inequality, oppression, and discrimination. And when the prison doors, he opened his heart and forgave them. Now that's my first black president. For the greatest sacrifice of all is to sacrifice yourself. And you did it. Just like a true boxer, you fought your way out of the ropes to the center stage of the world. But I wonder, had it not been for your sacrifices, where would I be? Thank you, Tata. You are my hero, my inspiration, and you made me proudly South African.
You know, the last time I showed that video, and I'm sorry it was so blurry, last time I showed that video, I said that is the sound that you'll never understand if you were born in freedom. You'll never understand the sound of that joy, because we all remember a time when we didn't know what it was like to feel proudly South African. It is because of the sacrifices of people like him that we know what it is to be proud. And the name of that thing is called unity. We achieved the greatest achievement in humankind, and that is taking the most racist country in the world to a nation of hope that is trying its utmost on an upward hill to build unity. And even though there are failures every day, there are more successes every single day in this beautiful sunny South Africa. So I'm sorry that the ugliness of other nations has been projected onto us right now. I'm sorry for them. But to those who may never have seen this footage, welcome. I'll put links into the description. But guys, as usual, please mind your business and let South Africans mind the South African business. This has been Nuance with Nikki, the nitty gritty, even if it's not pretty. I'm going to have to go deal with my cat. Thank you for joining. Ciao for now.